Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You are now listening to the first ever edition of Mental Health and Motivational Monday, presented by the Sex and Suicide Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. As always, we have my special co-host, Vinny Chase, with us this evening, and we figured you're going to say hello? You can say hello.
Hello.
Perfect. Yes. We figured because we really want this podcast to be raw, real, authentic, and we figured the best way to do that would be to make myself the first guest of Mental Health and Motivational Monday. That way, I don't expect you to be as open and honest as I'm probably about to be this evening, but we do encourage you to live in this world the way that you're meant to and make the world respond to you, not so that you're necessarily being affected by everything that happens every day in the world. And we think that the only way that you can really be yourself is just live life to the fullest the way that you feel, not by how everyone else wants you to live it. And by doing that, you make the world and the people around you respond to you, and that's a respectable quality to have. So we encourage people to tune in, hoping to encourage more of that in the world, as well as to hopefully help those that are struggling with any mental illness, to motivate those that need the motivation. And keep in mind, I'm no one special here. Well, I guess I don't mean it that way. I am special, but no more special than you are. So everybody has a story. We want to hear yours. As you've seen before, we've been able to somewhat hide the identities of people that are coming on the show. So if you feel you have an important story to share, we're more than willing to hide your identity, as long as, we obviously encourage you to kind of be yourself. But if your story is going to help someone out there, then by all means, come on the show, tell it. And help us out. We just want to make your story heard, and you never know who's listening. So I've said this before. We're not looking to get 1 million viewers or to go viral by doing this show here. I'm more looking to reach that one person that just needs to hear what we're talking about that particular day, whatever the topic. Whether it's sex advice that they're struggling with, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, or if it's a woman, maybe she's, when we do our Woman Crush Wednesday, not necessarily a woman, it could be a man as well, but someone that's maybe had something slipped in their drink at a party or been taken advantage of. Those are really important stories as well. Yeah. So that's what I'm here to do. So Vinny Chase is going to test his interview skills this evening, aren't you, buddy?
I am. It's going to be my first time ever actually conducting a professional interview on air.
Well, I have nothing but the utmost faith in you. We've even got candles lit to set the mood here. Yeah, so when you're ready, you ask away.
Okay, well, I guess I thought I'd go back to the very beginning. And for those of you who don't know, I live in the house here, and I moved in about a year ago. I met Shawn online through Kijiji, as most people do when they're looking for rentals.
Did you think that you'd be moving into the house with this guy?
Hell no. Have
you had some excitement since you've been here?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I first met you, it was through email correspondence, and it was a realtor, and I didn't even think that you'd be listing your own place, right? I just thought maybe this, Shawn hired some real estate person to list his place, right? But no, it turns out I show up early and I'm waiting for some car outside, and it turns out the realtor's actually inside the house. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. And it wasn't until, I think maybe a week, 2 weeks into living here that I found out that you had some history on reality TV, specifically the Bachelorette, right?
Yep, that's correct.
So I figured that we'd start there just because I know that you had a really interesting title on the show. So maybe you could just give us some insight into how you came on the show, what that was like for you.
Okay.
And just the early stages, and then we'll get on to the official title that you were, how you were building the show.
Okay, you don't want me to just go out flat out and say what the title was at this point?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Tony, yeah.
So when I was on The Bachelorette, it doesn't seem like that long ago. It's already almost been 2 years. And as briefly as the time was, people don't really understand the amount that's involved leading up to that. So I was already, by the time that you get accepted to be on that show,
right,
it's a very tiring process. There's a lot requested.
How long was the application process?
I started in September of 2014, and I don't think I knew, because it was 2015 that I was, okay.
Right.
Just see if I get my dates right.
Mental math there, yeah.
Sure. So I started in September of 2000, end of September 2014, I think, is when I got the original phone call.
Okay.
And following up through that, I had to go to New York as well as Los Angeles, and there was a lot of paperwork sent back and forth in between,
Right.
as well as Skype videos. By the time I was accepted, I think it was probably around this time 2 years ago. I think I knew at that Valentine's Day that I was going to be doing the reality TV show and going on the Bachelorette, and that was a tedious process.
So it was basically 5-6 month application process.
Pretty much. I mean, not for everyone.
Right. But that's what you went.
Sure, because they do some active scouting. I know they will go to bars and they want to make sure they get the best quality fit for that show. And go ahead.
So I was just wondering, I haven't actually asked you this before, but how did you come to apply to the actual show? Were you always a fan? Did you see the opportunity come up and you're like, yeah, I'm going to apply for that. I could totally do that. Or was it just something that kind of happened? How did that?
No, it was definitely. It was a show that I really got involved in watching off and on every time that I get into a relationship. It was kind of like, hey, you want to watch it this
fun
season.
Thing to do with the girlfriend.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so I started watching it back with my high school sweetheart back when I was, 18 years old, I think we started.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy that it's been on that long, eh?
It's been on forever.
Yeah, it's been on forever.
They're on season 21 right now, I think.
What?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. Soon people's, the original Bachelor could have kids that are going to be going on that show soon. So it was a really, so I mean, I've had a history with the show and I've always thought, wow, this would be really cool. It would be great to go on these dates and this exotic adventure, right?
And I mean, who wouldn't want that, right? I mean, you go on all those dates, there's beautiful women there.
Mostly intelligent people wouldn't want to do that.
Well, I don't know. I would love. I'd love to do it, but then again, there must obviously be a big difference between what you thought it was going to be and then what it actually turned out to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just don't think that I was. I think I was naive in a lot of ways.
Okay.
I think that the show itself, I thought, okay, well, only if people watch the show, then they're going to know I'm on it. I didn't realize, I didn't understand the size of this beast. I didn't understand that Jimmy Kimmel's going to be announcing my name. I didn't understand that ET Canada is going to have a picture up, and I didn't understand that. Yeah, it is. It's insane because as soon as I got back, I started kind of going online, and I realized people had their eye on me before I was even there.
Really?
Yeah. So people had kind of been leaking who would be part of this show, and the power of the internet is just fucked. I mean, in social media, at this time, with social media and the power of social media, they've had to adapt. I've really seen changes in that show. I mean, you see people from 3-4 seasons ago, and they have maybe 1,000 Instagram followers, if that, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to properly use Instagram on the show, so I missed out on I think my name was real estate related, so I didn't even have my real name on there.
Right. But again, that was probably more a symptom of you not realizing how much attention you were going to get. Right?
Absolutely.
So, do you think that in a way, because I almost feel like there was so much media nowadays, you've got, ET Canada, you've got all these different shows pumping, all this celebrity stuff into your head. Do you kind of think that you tune it out and so you don't realize really how much is being force-fed, down your ears?
100%. Yeah, it's an eye-opening experience, to say the least. And it's, I mean, I don't discourage it. I think that if it's something that people want to try, by all means. Doing that show was pointed out my weakest areas in life, and I appreciate that. I didn't realize just how judged you become by putting yourself out there like that. And so afterwards, it sort of gave me the insight as to wow, I really pulled a fast one over these guys. I really sold myself as Canada's top bachelor that year, which is complete bullshit. I mean, I was the guy that was up for 2 days before I left. It was just partying and
party.
Yeah, and maybe that's what they were kind of looking for. You don't know. Maybe that was my role in the whole thing.
Right.
But to get back to your original point, I don't think had I not been studying what I was studying at that time, I don't think I would have been a part of the show. I think that being just a realtor is too common of a thing.
Right.
I think I needed a little bit of an edge.
So that's where this title comes in that they kind of build you as.
Sure.
And that was that of.
They called me an amateur sex coach.
Amateur sex coach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which created a lot of waves. I mean, there was an article I read recently where this guy had written about past contestants and how they had been, how their job titles had kind of been put there by producers, right? So just to be totally clear, I had said, I thought I was going to be billed as a real estate broker.
Right.
And then there'd be a slash. And then at that point it would be, sex coach and training. Right. And I did ask them, I said, okay, so I'm not a fully certified sex coach yet, so I can't really say I'm a sex coach, even though they're like, in the coaching field, you don't really need to be certified to say you're a coach.
Right.
But I felt more comfortable having all that training and being certified.
Because you wanted it to be as legit as possible.
Sure.
Right.
So my original suggestion was, okay, can you put me on as I don't mind you using this title, but I'd like to be a sex coach in training or something along those lines.
Right.
Of course, amateur sounds a lot more like a porn star kind of thing. So it sounds a lot better. And obviously, they are there to do a job. They do their job well. They're going to make the most creative title they can out of that.
So they just thought, the hell with real estate broker, real estate agent. Let's just take that off the bill completely. Amateur sex coach. That's what's going to grab those views.
Absolutely. And it certainly caused some waves. And I remember... the funny thing was, I hadn't told my family that I was studying for this new field, this new journey.
It kind of started out as like a hobby and interest for you, and then that grew.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. It started out as when I broke up with my girlfriend when we split. I shouldn't say that it was a mutual thing, but when we ended up parting ways, I was looking for something. You know how you go through that breakup type feeling and you're just looking for something that's going to kind of fill that void. So I was looking at life coaching, and then I stumbled into, thought, life coaching, I wonder if there's like a niche field in these coaching endeavors. So from life coaching, it went into sex coaching. Okay. And I stumbled upon Sex Coach University in California, and I thought, this is really cool. And I happened to have some spare income at that time. Right. The course is about, I don't know if it's gone up in price, but it's over $3,000 US. Wow. Okay. So it's no joke. Can you flip my phone over? It's bothering me. Thank you. So, fuck off. Please don't bother me when I'm on here. Thank you.
We gotta try to maintain our zen.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, train of thought here. So we were talking about getting on the show, sex coach title. Sorry, I got a bit.
That's all right. It's all good.
Distracted there.
Fuckers, I should just turn that thing off before.
Okay.
Lesson learned. We're new at this.
Yeah, we're new. It's okay.
Yeah.
So they put you down as amateur sex coach, and you said you had been studying this for a while. So when exactly did you find out that was what title they were going to put?
Oh, there? I saw it on TV.
You saw it on TV.
Yeah.
So you didn't even get to see this before. They were just like, okay. Right, okay. So they kind of ambushed a bit.
I think they do that with... I don't think that anyone really has full control over their title. Unless if you're smart about it and you kind of have heard about reality TV beforehand, you'll make sure in the contract that they put these things and you go from there. But at that time, I was way too naive. I was just happy to be a part of it. I didn't really give a shit what they said about me.
Yeah, absolutely. But I guess that was what I was going to say is just that, we were talking about the price of the course just before my phone just disrupted us. So you said it was, $3,000 US, right? Yeah. So for all the people listening, I mean, that's not something that you just toss, out of your bank account just on a whim to, pursue a hobby. This is something you got to have some serious interest in or, at least think it's going to go somewhere.
Sure, so absolutely.
You were clearly passionate about this. It was a growing interest, the sex coaching. And then you get on The Bachelor, and then they bill you as that. And then I guess maybe because... they were obviously using that title, amateur sex coach, just to generate some publicity and some media interest. Do you think there was a disconnect between how that title actually sounds and what you see a sex coach being and doing?
100%. I think that it was kind of made to look a little bit more like a joke, right? Right. Whereas there's some fucking amazing people that I've met down in Los Angeles, and they're all. In this program, or they're training to become sex coaches. Mm-hmm. And the two people that are that started this, and the founders of Sex Coach University, they really helped me through the period when I lost my roommate to suicide, and we'll obviously go into that in a bit. But they were there for me, and they helped by learning from them and becoming my own coach. I was able to coach myself through a lot of tough times. Right. So as much as people might think it's kind of comical, it's the same thing. I mean, the amount of training that I have, if you were to compare it to a sex therapist typically only need an extra 10 additional hours of training in the field of sexology.
Really?
Whereas this took me about 200 hours to
200
complete.
hours.
So,
and that's just, so what kind of material do you cover? Obviously there's a lot, but...
Sure. I mean, it starts out from anything from, you could have how to have a better sex life. You could talk about any kind of issues such as erectile dysfunction, early ejaculation. In females, you could talk about whether or not they've even had an orgasm before, how to become a squirter if you want to. And then you can dive into different kinds of different worlds you don't know exist. So you go into the BDSM world, you go into certain things involving scatting and water sports, which I don't know if you're familiar with, but it can get a little bit graphic for some people here. But it explores pretty much everything you can think of, and the idea is to really make you comfortable so that nothing bothers you as a coach. I mean, there could be people that are coming in here saying they enjoy getting fisted in the ass. Right. And that's not supposed to shock me.
No.
So say, okay, and and you go on and move forward. So that's the whole concept behind the course there. And it was not only that, but it's also so, the coaching side was also so motivational, so uplifting, and so positive. It was just... there was nothing but positivity in that course.
Right. It wasn't like you could pick something out and be like, oh, well, I like this, but that just sounds crazy. Like it was.
Well, you could have your judgments, right? I mean, there's going to be.
But it was positive.
Sure. Yeah, but I mean, you can get into homosexual tendencies and things like that, and maybe some people that might not be the area they want to venture down. Maybe that's coaching that they're not comfortable doing, right? So there could be people that want to just coach heterosexual, vanilla kind of couples, and then there might be someone that's a dom and a coach, and a dom is someone that's sort of in the BDSM world is the top, or someone that is in control. So BDSM is all about the erotic power exchange. It's not so much about the...
What, did you know what it stands for? I don't know what it stands for.
BDSM?
BDSM.
Yeah, so it's bondage, discipline. Okay. BD, the D and the M. Okay. It goes... It's hard to explain. I almost have to write it down.
Yeah.
So there's a B and a D, which is bondage, discipline.
And then
sadomasochist?
Yeah, sadomasochist. Yeah, that's
okay. Well, that's the S and the M.
S and the M.
Yeah, and then I'll write it down. I'll write it down for you afterwards. I don't want to get too caught off.
That's okay. So I guess where I was going with that is just that, like, a lot of people you hear, because I've heard you tell people, you go, oh, I'm a sex coach, right? And you can see people's eyes light up, right? And there's that initial bit of skepticism, like, okay, sex coach. But the thing that I always thought was, what I think about when I hear people say that is that, a lot of people, their sex education consists of what they were taught in, elementary school or high school, right? And I took a sex course in university. I forget what it was called, but it wasn't something I took because I thought I needed to know it. It was something I took because the sex course is going to be an easy credit, right?
Sure.
But I ended up learning like a ton of stuff that you wouldn't have thought you would have learned, right?
No.
Like over refractory periods and all this stuff that you don't realize goes into it because you're just not taught it. So I always think it's cool when you see people's eyes go kind of crazy, like, oh, a sex coach? Like, really, what do you have to tell me, kind of? I feel like that's the attitude, and I think a lot is what you have to tell them.
Well, let me explain the difference between coaching and therapy, okay?
Sure.
So there's one key difference. Mm-hmm. The difference between a sex coach and a sex therapist, or and that's what I've been called quite frequently, is people say, he's a sex therapist. That's not the case. Okay. Therapy goes into your past, so any kind of issues from childhood. Whereas coaching is more about, finding out what the issue is, putting a plan together, and basing it on future results. So you can talk to me about your past and your history, but we're not going to really process those emotions. I'm not here to explain what sort of things went on in your childhood to contribute to the problem today. I'm here to figure out, okay, so this is your problem. You have some performance anxiety. These are some things we can do, some relaxation exercises. This is some things that might help you. And then we meet every so often in order to try to resolve the issue. Right. I mean, obviously, for the purposes of the Sunday Night Sex Show, it's more about, it's not a coaching environment. Like, I'm never going to be coaching in these live these live streams.
It's not a one-on-one type thing.
No, this is more about education and entertainment. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So anyone that wants to be coached, I mean, that's something I'd be willing to talk about, but that would be a totally private, off-camera,
absolutely.
Podcast.
Just shoot an email. And,
sure.
Yeah. So I guess moving on, if there's nothing, like if you have something you want to stop me on, go ahead.
Sure.
But I guess I was just going to start moving on towards maybe the Bachelor experience and moving out of that and how that kind of affected you.
Okay. The Bachelorette was like I said, I mean, I wouldn't change a thing. I think it was a great experience. And it was a blessing and a curse in the sense that it gave me the confidence that I needed to sort of realize, hey, this is a big fucking world out there. And, you know, there's lots to do in life. And if I can do something like this, there's really no telling what else I'm capable of doing.
Right.
So that was really nice to see, but also it kind of makes me think beyond London, Ontario. As much as I love my hometown and my family's here and everything, taking the step back and not drinking in the past year, I kind of explored other options and other technology that's available and other careers that can take me across the world, right? So that it's not...
Absolutely.
The one thing that I found doing the Bachelorette was my real estate career stopped. It almost came to a halt while I was gone because they take your phone away, right?
Yeah, right.
And as much as I had someone here covering for me, it's not the same as having the hands-on.
No, and I think you mentioned to me a while ago that tends to be the case with a lot of the contestants.
Yeah, sure.
You know, their jobs that they had before the show kind of get a little disrupted, and then you come back and
depending how you're painted on the show, you might not have a job to come back to.
That's very true.
Right? Yeah, luckily I'm self-employed, so I mean, obviously some of the stuff my brokerage at the time may have had an issue with.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's still something that I can work out between them. Or I'm a real estate broker. If I want to, I can start my own fucking brokerage. It doesn't make a difference.
Right.
So, like, at the end of the day, as long as I'm abiding by the standards in my career, I'll be fine. But from the sex coaching side of things, that was something that was really, I believe, the selling point to get on that show.
Right.
And it actually forced me to open up and be proud of the course I was taking, rather than kind of hide away and just kind of keep it a secret.
Keep it one of those things that you just study by yourself.
And look at the things that have happened from that. I've been able to travel to colleges and universities promoting consent. And that's phenomenal. I mean, I love that.
And that ties back to, I mean, how you open the show. I mean, just telling everyone to be their open, authentic selves and not let, you know, external events kind of manipulate who you are. Let your actual personality kind of
shine.
Shine.
And just... and I think that I was always an individual who, like, just so that you know, and so that the people watching know, I always struggled with, I didn't know what it was at the time, but I always struggled with anxiety disorder and panic attacks. And from an early age, I started I think it was 19, I tried my first antidepressant, my first anti-anxiety medication.
Okay.
And but the problem was, at 19 years old, you're still drinking and going out, so you don't really know, or giving it a chance to work even. And I remember I took it for like 3 weeks. That's about how long it takes to even sort of get started in your system.
Really? So I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
I mean, when
3
you're
weeks, wow.
Even longer sometimes. I mean, they say to give it a month. So each time that you change a medication, it usually takes about a month to even have to start showing an effect. And if you're on a small dosage, then they can up it a month. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
it's
absolutely.
It's a very experimental process when you're fucking with your noggin. You know?
So you first went on antidepressant at 19.
Yeah.
How many did you have to cycle through before you found one, or did you find one? And what was your experience with them? Okay,
so I've had a pretty adventurous life, I guess, and I've been involved in risky behavior. And I think that a lot of that came from the fact that I don't think I really needed medication this whole time. I think that every time I went on a medication, I became someone different, someone that didn't give a shit, and at times scary.
Right. So it kind of turned off that part of your brain that cared about certain things. Yeah,
I mean, when I struggle with anxiety, which sometimes leads to depression, at times, like when I was younger, I didn't know what the fuck was happening. So I remember having I had my first real panic attack when I was 23, and I'll never forget it. It was up in Sault Ste. Marie. I was studying aviation. I mean, like the guy that's suffering from panic attacks, let him fly a fucking 250 horsepower fully aerobatic airplane.
That's a great idea.
So let him face his fear head on.
Right.
It wasn't their fault. It wasn't the school's fault by any means. It was me trying to face my fear.
Right.
the anxiety by taking on another stressful career and thinking I could overcome it.
Well, and it's interesting because, I mean, obviously everyone has their own coping mechanisms, but I can personally identify with that because I feel like, you know, I have anxiety too, and sometimes that leads to depression. But I find personally for me, before I knew really what it was, whether it was anxiety or depression, because, you know, you're 19, you're 20, you can't put a label on these things.
No,
you just wake up and you're like, I feel...
If you don't feel right
today,
you don't feel right, sure.
Yeah, so...
and that happens any day, right? I mean, we're not supposed to feel good every day.
Right, which is a whole other thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I guess for me, I kind of tried the same coping mechanism. For me, it was never like, okay, so that makes me feel bad, so I'll go away from it. It was always like, that makes me feel bad, so I'm going to do like 20 hours of that, and I'm going to go do something that's even more intimidating than that, right?
Well, it's kind of the society that we're raised in, right?
Yeah.
It's show no weakness, and
especially for men. Especially
for men. And I think that's the problem. I remember I released a video almost a year ago, encouraging men to talk about these things because we're supposed to be strong all the time. And what is really strong is talking about this shit.
Yeah,
this is the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah,
is talking about the hardest thing I've ever done is talking about. How I ran to alcohol and drugs because of my anxiety disorder. How I was ashamed to be on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication, even though, do you know how many people in the world are? A fucking phenomenal number of people.
Well, what I was going to say is that it's interesting that you talk about that and that anxiety medication as something that's stigmatized. Just because I've never been on medication, but this past... I don't know, was this month or last month when I had the Bell Let's Talk day?
On the 25th.
It seemed like this year, more than last year, maybe that was just because I wasn't paying attention, but it seemed like this year, I saw a lot more of my friends on Facebook talking about mental health and actually being very, very, very honest and forthcoming. And, you know, I have bipolar, I have anxiety, and I take this medication, I take that medication. And it was really, really shocking to me just because I never realized how many of my friends had a mental health problem or illness or anxiety or were on medication. And it was interesting not just because I didn't know that, but because you start to see aspects of a person's personality and go, oh, I totally see where that comes from now, right? And and hey, obviously it would be great if, you didn't have this mental health issue, but that's what gives your personality so much color.
Sure, 100%.
It's really cool.
And I think that as soon as people start to embrace that a little more, and that's the whole purpose behind Mental Health and Motivational Monday, is for people to come in and talk about some of the things they've gone through, just because somebody is listening. Whether if you hit one person that this resonates with, and maybe it gives them the motivation to say, you know what, I've been through this, I'm sick of hiding and keeping all my skeletons in the closet. This is nothing to be ashamed of. No one on this, I truly believe that no one on this planet, unless you're fucking Buddha and you're awakened, no one is mentally healthy.
Right.
No one is 100% mentally healthy.
No,
I don't believe
I
it.
agree.
I think you can slap a mental disorder on anyone walking around. Anyone.
Oh, for sure.
At any given time.
Sure. Right.
So, I mean...
Or at the very least, if not some mental health problem, some kind of personality flaw or something that seeps into your mental health.
Sure.
So...
But I mean, we are human too, right? We are allowed to go through things. We are allowed to have emotions. Let's face it, we're living in a society where at one point in time, that fight or flight response, your amygdala, it's the main generator of the fight and flight response in your brain. So I used to consider myself to have an overactive amygdala.
Okay.
And, then you get things like cortisone released, adrenaline released. Okay. So which was great if back in time there was a saber-toothed tiger lurking behind the tree.
Right. But then you're going to fuck that tiger up.
Sure, but when you're just studying for an exam the next day, that's a useless primal kind of tool that's given to us. And it's no longer really necessary. I mean, it is... Obviously, if you're walking in a dark alley, it's nice to have sort of that sixth sense about whether or not you're in danger and not to put yourself in dangerous situations. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of that getting triggered by things that aren't going to kill us. Right? I mean, your boss dropping another assignment on you at the office, is not something that's a life or death situation.
No, absolutely.
And our body doesn't know the difference.
Yeah. So stop me, by the way, if I'm going too in depth in something.
Not at all.
But I do find this like a very interesting area, just because, like I said, I had anxiety problems. I continue to have anxiety problems.
Yeah. Well, me too.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not something that. I mean, it's a part of life. And a little bit of anxiety is good sometimes.
It's good sometimes.
Sure. I mean, I get like starting this podcast has been a very anxiety-producing feeling because it's we're really trying to put this out there, and even though the message is good, there's still a lot of people that are going to talk shit about it.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
But I don't give a shit about those people, right? Because they're not the ones I'm talking to.
No. I guess I was just going to say that I kind of. We're talking about the amygdala and the fight or flight response. That for me, that cued off similar memories of going into exams and just having like insane amounts of adrenaline coursing through my body. And then being like, why? Because in your brain's telling you like, okay, this is nothing to be worried about. It's an exam. The sun's going to rise tomorrow.
Sure.
Right? I'm going to walk out of this room. But you just can't stop your body from just feeling like you got hit by a lightning bolt.
Sure. Right? And this is the fucking problem though, is that the amount of stress that students are under this day and age,
it is ridiculous.
And the little tools they're given to deal with it is just, it's way out of whack here. I mean, something's got to give. I understand that education's a business and everything, but health first.
Yeah.
And we're especially walking into these the new technology where, like this last year, I've learned that the true key to happiness is when you can totally turn your mind off mentally and be in any present moment.
Okay.
That's how the monks do it. That's how everyone does it. That's what meditation is. When you sit there, you're trying to bring yourself back constantly to the present moment without letting the little voices in your head take you away.
So, I guess on the topic of anxiety and mental health, we talked about the sex coaching, and now we've been focusing kind of on the mental health aspect.
Yeah.
What were some of the tools that you used, like in your time after coming off the Bachelorette, when you realized you had all these, things that you wanted to get sorted out in your life?
Sure.
Like, what were the tools that you used? How did you go about it? Because it must have been a very intimidating thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was on an antidepressant. I think I was on Cipralex when I was on the Bachelorette, and that was something that I hid from them.
Right. Really?
Yeah. I don't think everyone does. I think that there are people, I know that there are people that are on them right now that are open, they talk to me about them.
Yeah. So,
whether or not they've admitted that to producers or casting directors, I don't know.
Right.
But I have a feeling that that's okay. I mean, it's something that they're kind of letting through a little, maybe they'll just watch it a little more and monitor a little more if you are on something. But I was afraid that, I was afraid that I wouldn't get cast if I let it known that I was on an anti-anxiety medication. So after that, obviously the medication I was taking and the amount of anxiety I was feeling still from going, everybody all of a sudden knew who I was. And I tried to act like it was cool and I was cool with it. But I'm really I've noticed I'm a little bit of an introvert actually. And as much as I seem like I like to be out there, I needed alcohol to do that. So
I see.
Even though I was on an anti-anxiety drug at the time, I was still out when I was at the bars compensating with alcohol. And then if I get too drunk, I just go to the washroom, do a line of blow with some friends, and then straighten me out for the night.
Right.
So I was really kind of like this. And then it wasn't until, I guess, I realized that I was kind of going overboard and in overdrive, sort of. It probably would have been the fall. When I first moved in here. Actually.
Okay, so this is after you've gotten off the Bachelorette.
Yeah, like after it had aired and everything, and I'd kind of ridden that wave for a while, and then I was watching everyone else from the season kind of ride their waves, and it's kind of interesting because you see what other people are doing, and you're thinking like, well, should I be doing that, or what should I? Yeah. There's no guidebook to this, right?
And it's a very weird thing because, and this wasn't something that I kind of realized until I met you, but it's not like. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not like you're off the show and then you just go back to your life and it's like, okay, so this is my life, I'm going to turn out. No, that's not how it happens. You get off the show and then you have all these people that are still talking about you and messaging you, and you have people that you talk to on the actual show who are in contact with you, and they've all got their individual plans. So it's not like you just get off the show and all of a sudden it ends, right?
It
becomes an extent, but
I mean it's Yeah, it doesn't just end, for sure. There's always, and I mean, I got into some situations, obviously, after the show as well, that TMZ picked up. So, I mean, I was doing and it's interesting because you start to experience this level of attention, and then even if it's negative attention that's coming at you, you grasp onto it because you kind of like, it's your. And I realized it was my ego that was doing that. Now I know what the alter ego is and your super ego and everything.
Right, all that Freudian stuff.
Yeah, but I had to sort of study it and see what it was that was trying to survive. It wasn't really me. It was the ego inside of me that wanted all that attention. But that's something that I try to get rid of every day.
Right.
Or at least see through.
Yeah. So you get off the show, and then you were talking about the medication you were on, and then but you also turned to other things too, right? Like you had this whole meditation thing, the Zen stuff. That
was after. That was after? Yeah, I mean, back in November is when like my roommate before you,
right?
He was he was doing the same kind of reckless behavior that I was.
And this was a big turning point for you. This story.
Huge turning point, absolutely. And so, even though, like, people always ask me, like, were you an alcoholic or a drug addict? And my answer to that question is, I never drank every day or did drugs every day. I didn't do drugs any time that I wasn't drunk.
Right.
And I didn't drink every day. But when I would drink and I would go out, I wouldn't really want the night to end. So there's a different kind of alcoholism there, I suppose. Right. But, deep underneath it all was the anxiety disorder that I really needed to deal with.
So do you feel that the heart of, like, all, like, the drinking and the drugs, that was more, to medicate and
that's self-medicating
for
100%.
The feelings, as opposed to, like, oh, well, I want to feel like I'm... Because, there's a difference between where you're addicted to something because of the way it makes you physically feel. Yeah. And then, just to stop feeling bad or to feel better.
Sure. Well, I mean, right now, it's been 15 months of not having a drink and not doing any kind of drug, whether it's an anti-anxiety pill or whether it's a line of Coke. Right. It's been 15 months. I don't crave any of those things anymore. Right. But it's taken time. I mean, the first little bit was definitely a struggle. I mean, just to make it like 3 months was a huge fucking...
I bet. Yeah, no, I have friends who, have tried to go 3 months.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, I know you say 15 months and then... It's funny hearing you describe it because you kind of say 15 months and then you move on. But it's a big thing. Like, there's so many people out there who, hear 15 months, I think, at least, and then they go, wow, 15 months? Like, that's a pretty big thing to do. Like, that takes some strength, some emotional strength to actually do that. Right?
But I don't even think about it anymore, man. Like, the thing is, I realized after spending... I recommend to everyone out there to spend 1 year sober, because as soon as you realize how fast that year goes by, what you can accomplish in that year... I mean, I've read more books than I ever have in my life this year. Yeah, this past year. Okay. I've gotten more certifications than I ever had. I mean, it's not like I got a university degree or anything, but I studied a lot, and I enjoy it now, which is something I never did before. But it also helped me. Everything that I read about was also very positive and very uplifting, and training your mind to think against what the world wants you to believe. So. Everybody's judging everyone constantly. Everybody's constantly nitpicking at things, complaining. It teaches you to sort of be grateful for what you have. Yeah. Sure, I still catch myself judging people and joking with people. I'm still the same guy to some extent, but I look at the world differently, and I don't let the same things bother me. But when you see that year and how quickly that passes, we're on this planet a very short amount of time. So why the fuck... the amount of days I wasted... laying in bed, hungover, sweaty, gross, it's just feeling sketchy. Yeah. And no offense if that's something that you enjoy doing, it's just not for me. I mean, there are people out there that are going to do that for their entire lives. Yeah. I would say maybe try what I'm saying, but, there's some people that just won't. Yeah. And honestly, I don't judge anyone that wants to do that and partake in that. If that's your thing, by all means. I just saw it totally rip my best buddy's life to shreds, literally, to the point where he, took his own life, and that was enough for me to see, like, holy shit, this isn't a fun joke anymore. This isn't something. Absolutely. This isn't a game. Right. This is really fucking with people's lives. Right.
Yeah. This is causing some big problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the way I look at it is, I mean, you can't question the fact that alcohol and whatever substances you're taking have at least some effect on your longevity, right? Sure. Like people who drink, like you'd be amazed, like how actually bad for your body alcohol is.
Yeah. Sure.
So I drink still. I mean, I have friends who drink.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
man.
I mean, but it's one of those things where, you know, okay, I'm going to have something to drink. I don't overdo it, but, you know, it's one of those things that I just, you know, you're going to sacrifice. You're going to give and take some places in your life. You know, maybe I won't live to be 200 or 100.
Dude, I already think I knocked off a good 10, 15 years of my life. The way that I used to behave, man, fuck.
How much healthier did you feel, though, after, like, you know, the first 3-4 months where you had no alcohol? Because I heard that's a big thing.
Yeah, I mean... It's tough to say. I mean, I felt good, but I also overcompensated with other things. I mean, I was so focused on becoming strong from the inside out that I really didn't care what my exterior looked like. So I moved over into eating, like, didn't really care what I eat. I was like, you know, I'm not drinking, I'll eat whatever I want. And I got out of shape, and you know, I'm still trying to recover from that time of being the sort of the fat guy. But I mean, I'm bigger now, but at least there's some muscle showing through, right? So, I don't know. I mean, I felt good. I felt clear, but it's tough because, maybe for those people that didn't just lose a best friend 4 months ago, then you feel great, but there's still a lot of shit that you're dealing with. So, I don't even think about it anymore. Like, I just, I'm not saying I'll never drink again because one day when I get married, I'd love to have a glass of champagne and share some wine with my future wife, right? But at least I know now when to stop, and I think I've dealt with the anxiety enough that I don't need to overcompensate and indulge in alcohol to the extent that I did. But for now, at this point, I mean, so many people have kind of reached out saying that they're inspired by what I've done. Thank you. But it's almost like it's not about me anymore. It's about, like, I can't have a drink because I want everyone else to sort of see what's possible.
I see.
It's kind of above me. So...
well, I guess that's something you just have to decide on your own.
I mean, I don't have...
take it.
The only time I would, like... The thing is I said to myself, as soon as there's need to celebrate, like, as soon as I have cause to celebrate, which there has been lots of reasons to this past year... But nothing to the extent where it's a huge life change, like a wedding day, or you know, bringing another child into the world, or something along those lines, or making your, you know, $1 million in a year or something like that, right? And purchasing your own island. I mean, those are celebrations.
That's where you cry a bottle.
I mean, I think a little bit differently now. I think on a larger scale.
Well, it's interesting too, just to hear you talking that way, because you know, a lot of people, I've heard it happen a lot of times where, you know, you'll have someone in the room say, "Oh no, I'm dry, or I don't drink anymore," and you know, kind of the first thing that comes to mind is, okay, that guy's got an alcohol problem. And if he takes a glass of anything, it's going to be like
game over.
And, you know, he's going to spend the next week like drinking himself stupid, right? Which, hey, that's some people. But it kind of seems like that's a stereotypical, you know, idea of what it is to have, you know, an alcohol problem. And that's not the case for a lot of people. Like, a lot of people have just stopped drinking or gone dry because, hey, they don't like it, how it makes them feel physically. They want to be healthier. Maybe they do have a bit of a problem, but it's not to the extent that, you know, if I have one glass of white wine, I'm going to go crazy. So there's different levels of things, I guess.
I think that every mistake I've ever made in my life started with alcohol.
Oh, they drink.
Yeah, always. I don't think I've done any. I mean, obviously, I made mistakes as a kid, but I think that everything that has seriously been life altering, or could have been life altering, was under the influence of alcohol, which maybe had led to drug use, depending on how drunk I got. But
well, think about that too. I just thought that was interesting that you brought that up, because I was listening to someone recently who was talking about how going dry can actually improve your social skills. Because a lot of people, you know, like you said you did during The Bachelor, you know, you're feeling anxious, you want to talk to more people, but you got the anxiety, so you know, you drink, it's that crutch.
Well, I drank a lot during the first night on The Bachelorette. I did okay. The second night, I just went over the edge. And so I fucked myself with that. I think that had I not gotten so completely white girl wasted, is that the new term?
I think so.
If I had not done that, I may have actually
gone further.
And maybe I would have given it a little bit more of a shot. But I think that because of the state I was in, and I think that I was a boy on that show. I think that over the last little while, I've only transitioned into a man, which is kind of unfortunate at 33. But better late than never, you know?
Yeah, well, the thing is, everything happens in their own time. I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned, is that you always, there's this expectation that society has, or, you're married by this age, you do this by this age.
Sure.
And when you actually get out there, you realize that, hey, there's people of all ages that still don't have it fucking figured out.
Well, we're all just trying to get through this thing and get our shit together at the end of the day, right?
But what I was going to say with the whole dry thing is that this guy was saying, because you use alcohol as a crutch socially, some people do.
Yeah.
Your social skills, they don't develop to the extent that they would if you had been sober.
Sure,
right?
I agree with that.
Well, it was something that I didn't think about, and then just hearing you talk about, all my problems came from drinking, right? And it's kind of like, well, if all your problems came from drinking,
why
right,
drink?
Then imagine all the problems that you can fix in yourself that come from just being sober.
Sure, right? And I think that's a big thing. I think you're really touching on. Sometimes I forget what an accomplishment it really is.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think back to, this has been, I'm trying to think, I think I started drinking when I was sort of 17 years old in high school. Maybe it was earlier, I don't even remember. But the thing was, you'd go find a school, a playground, and everyone would just go, you'd go fishing. This is what we call it going in the beer store. So you get an adult to buy you alcohol, you grab a 40 of Old English, you go sit in the woods.
My God.
Yeah, you go sit in the woods.
I remember Old English.
Yeah, guys and girls from high school get together, get drunk, and it was an excuse to hook up, It was which looking back on was so wrong, but, taking girls into the bushes,
because that sounds so good.
Yeah. But I'm sure kids are still doing that.
Oh yeah, heck yeah. I came from, hell yeah. I came from, a small town, a small tobacco ginseng farming town, and that's what everyone would do. High school, our grad party was a bush party.
Yeah.
I remember I had some girl ask to take a walk in the field with me.
Yeah?
Yeah. I was
and what happened?
I turned it down.
Of course you did.
She wasn't my type.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough.
But so I guess so we've got the mental health that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
We were talking about the meditation and getting into that side of things.
That's really helped.
That's really helped.
Yeah, I think that mindful meditation is something for example, a lot of people think that meditation is just kind of sitting on your bed and putting on the headphones and listening. There's guided meditation, which is more along the lines of relaxation. Mm-hmm. And then there's mindful meditation where you sit cross-legged, put your hands like this, you sit, but your eyes aren't closed. That's a misconception. People think that you close your eyes, but you have a soft gaze, you look at about 45-degree angle, you focus on your breathing, and any time that your mind wanders and you're not focusing on your breathing, you just bring it back to breath. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of constantly bringing you back to the present moment, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, you get these little things that relate to real life. So, for example, I'll have an itch that'll start happening on my eyebrow or wherever, right? Things. But you just sit there, and I the way that I used to relate to that, I said, okay, I'm not going to scratch that because that was the itch that I used to get on the weekends every time I wanted to go to the bar. If I can sit through this, I can beat that. So there's little things you can relate to, and you do it without even thinking about it. It's people think that there's some meditation is some secret, but it's really just getting out of your mind and getting into your heart center and living your life. You don't even need to. You don't need to be told what's right and wrong anymore. You feel what's right and wrong. So you know that watching, for example, these whales in SeaWorld is fucking animal cruelty, right?
Right.
And
that's
you start,
crazy.
Yeah, so you start to feel these things, whereas our mind somehow told us that was entertainment for our kids.
Right.
So, I don't know if you followed that recently and the whole thing.
I have. I haven't like the whales, but
sure.
I've heard that they have a terrible time keeping whales in captivity in places like Marineland, actual large whales and sharks and stuff. They die very, very quickly.
There was I think it's Tulkum or I can't remember. There was a whale that was he's killed 2 humans, I believe, 2 trainers.
Wow.
Tillicum or something. Anyway, but I was really
something come.
I was really something come. But he died recently, and he was a whale that was taken from captivity. I don't know if he actually killed the first trainer. He may have injured one, and then they kind of covered it up. Someone bought. I think it was SeaWorld that bought him. And we're going totally off topic with this, but and then he ended up killing someone, and it's just one of those things where. An animal is an animal, right? At the end of the day, that whale is no different than you. It's no different than me. And it's just like watching these videos on YouTube. I saw one dog, those kids that cut that dog's ear off.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
Like this is you know that's fucking wrong.
Yeah, that's
you're not more important than anything on this planet.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. So and things like that just start to surface. You don't need to think about it. I don't need to think about what's right and wrong anymore. I feel it.
Right. Yeah, that it makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess that was that's kind of interesting to me, just because I feel like meditation is one of those things that could help a lot of people, especially when you're talking about mental health and anxiety and depression. But I also feel like it's one of those things that has kind of been, mainstream media has kind of touched it a bit, and so now if you go into your Spotify playlist, you'll get guided meditation. Nothing wrong with guided meditation.
Sure. I wouldn't bash it either.
That's your thing.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's kind of been this like a little bit of like new age stuff touching it, and then people get this idea that it's got to be this complicated thing that you do while sitting cross-legged with incense burning.
Yeah.
And you don't like you just said.
No,
it's really
simple.
You don't have to spend money, and you can just it'll make you feel better.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, it kind of helps build you from the inside out. I find that meditation, eating healthy, and going to the gym, I mean, it's the mind-body-spirit connection, right? So as long as you take care of yourself in all those areas, then the rest of your life is going to be great. Just don't fuck with it,
So mind, body, spirit.
But this is the problem, is that we take these things that have been around for centuries, I mean, the samurai used to meditate. Unfortunately, they used it to focus on killing people.
Yeah.
But when you get to, why fuck with a good thing? It doesn't always have to be altered and made, we have this tendency to always fuck with things like they need to be somehow better.
Yeah.
That's not always the case.
It's a weird human thing.
It is. Isn't it? Why do we always have to improve shit?
Yeah. Let's make the corn taste better.
But this is the same, this is the thing I was talking about when we went back to mental health, is saying technology is a main contributor to what's going to be, I feel, is an increase in mental health, mental illness in the younger generation. Because when you learn that to be fully happy is just to engage in every present moment, then when you're locked in your phone all the time, and I was just talking about this earlier today, but you're missing something, that there could be a sign in the world just for you. For example, it could be a red cardinal just pulling up and whistling a little song. You're too busy in your fucking phone with someone that's across the world that you don't even know. Focused on their life rather than your own.
Yeah.
So I really do feel like, and I'm not saying that if you do that, there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying know when to put the phone away, and know when to just kind of be present with what you have and where you are. It's we all think we're living reality. We're not. This is real right here. You and I talking.
Right.
That's all there is. I mean, everyone watching, they don't really exist right now. I mean, this is the moment, but we just hope that they catch something from it, right? So,
but for all present purposes, it's you and me here.
Yeah.
Right. And,
unless everyone we appreciate everyone that's watching, but you're not standing in the room here. I can't really acknowledge you, and I don't probably know a lot of you. So
so it's almost like you have layered reality. That's another layer on top of that,
sure.
Right? So you think that's contributed a lot to the mental health problem?
I don't think we've seen it yet. I think we're going to see an increase in it. As technology like this increases, it's taking us away from reality right in front of us, and I don't think that's going to be a good thing long term. I think that as long as you know when to put the phone away, you'll be all right. But they've already shown that this whole selfie epidemic has caused mental illness and suicide because people have been trying to get the perfect selfie. I was reading an article where one guy took thousands of selfies a day and he just couldn't get the perfect picture.
Yeah.
Guess what? You're not fucking perfect. You're not going to ever get a perfect picture. But he drove himself insane. So we're building narcissists, and we're building people that are just so self-involved that it's kind of like from a mentor that I've been talking to, they say you should be living 50% of your life for yourself and 50% of your life for others. So that means half the time you're constantly trying to give back. You're constantly trying to volunteer. You know that I volunteer at CMHA, and you know that I'm very much involved in volunteering with mental illness. So I don't know if it's 50% yet, but hopefully with this podcast, I mean, we're hopefully trying to contribute. And I'm not right about everything. I know that. I'm just trying to share what's worked for me. And
but once again, it's about that balance, right? It seems like that's a recurring theme in a lot of this. this.
Sure.
Mind, body, spirit, all that, balance.
Yeah.
So I mean, mental health aspect, which we've been talking about, and of course you just mentioned you volunteer pretty regularly, I think, at the CHMA, right?
CMHA is Canadian Mental Health Association.
Okay.
So I just have been certified to be one of their support line workers.
Wow.
So yeah, so I can actually call if someone's, or I can answer the phone when people are sort of, in a dark place.
Right.
And it doesn't mean I'm trained for suicide prevention or anything, but I do have some training under my belt, and yeah, that's something that I'm really looking forward to doing. And then there's Parkwood Hospital. They have a mood and anxiety ward.
Okay.
And last summer I became certified as a personal trainer in order to help train clients to sort of help them get the endorphins flowing.
Right.
The problem with being a volunteer, not that it's a problem, I shouldn't say problem, but the thing about it is that you're going in there completely blind. I don't know if someone's talking to me, I don't know what their diagnosis is. I don't know if they're bipolar, I don't know if they're schizophrenic. I don't know if they're going to remember me the next time I'm here.
So that's actually why I wanted to bring this up, just because it is a very, it's a lot more than just, I'm a volunteer. It's you walk in there and you have no idea who you're talking to, what their diagnosis is.
No, it's hard.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? Because I mean, you've obviously got to treat everyone with respect.
Sure.
Right? But at the same time, there's all this stuff going on around you. Like, how do you process all that?
First of all, the nurses that work in that kind of environment, I don't know how they do it. These men and women are the godsend of, angels, because it's so exhausting. Like, I'm only in there for a couple hours and then I get to leave. They're in there for 8-hour days. And so it's exhausting because someone could be talking at you constantly, right?
And you find you're drained when you leave there?
Yeah, but I mean, I found that the best way to relate to people when I don't know what they're dealing with is through exercise. Exercise always makes everyone feel good. So if I can help them and set them up with just a simple gym regimen, we're okay. And then you can start to see smiling going on. The endorphins kick in a little bit, right? So
But there you go, folks. Mind, body, spirit. That's the body portion coming in. You exercise your body, you get those endorphins, and those feel good. That feel good
chemicals.
So you volunteer there. And
that helps. Anytime. So for anyone that's struggling with mental illness, even if you're not 100%, I do recommend getting out there and just going to volunteer to help someone less fortunate, because you will. I mean, at the end of the day, you'll always see that someone has it worse than you do. I mean, I know sometimes it feels like the world's ending and your world's collapsing, but once you get yourself out there and you start to see that there are people out there that really have it bad, you kind of start to count your blessings a little more, and you feel better just by doing that.
Yeah. Well, I feel too that like a lot of the I feel like a lot of people who have anxiety or depression that don't exactly talk about it, it's one of those, it's almost like there's some principle in psychology. I took some course in university. I forget what it's called. But as a teenager, when you go through problems in your life, you have a tendency to dramatize them to the point where it's like, I'm the only one who has this problem.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, you feel like you're the only one in the world.
Yeah.
And that's what this is for too, is to help people so they don't feel alone. Right.
You go out there, you volunteer, and you see the people who have it way worse than you do, and they're still fighting a good fight, right?
Sure,
it gives you not only you hope, but you see that you're not the only one out there who's dealing with this stuff.
There are people that show up there with nothing. They just they have the same pair of clothes, they have the same outfits, and you really start to realize, no matter where you are in life, as long as you have a roof over your head and food on the table, you're rich. You really are. And as much as we always want more and bigger and better, just don't be afraid to stop and be thankful for everything that you have, because there's a lot of people that would die to trade places with you. So, and are dying. So
you volunteer there. We've been talking about the Zen stuff, the mental health stuff. How does that tie into the sex coaching aspect of things? Does it?
The mental health?
Yeah,
I mean, when I'm out there and I'm talking to students at colleges and universities, the way that I tie into it, because let's face it, they're there to see a show, they want some entertainment. I'm not really there to lecture them on making sure that their mind is healthy. But your largest, most powerful sexual organ is your brain. So that's kind of something where it's like, oh, really? And then you say, yeah. So if you guys don't keep this healthy, you know, this area down here, you know, that little hot zone that you guys love to explore, well, that's going to maybe malfunction.
2 inches?
So I mean, I guess there's certain ways that it can tie in, but if you're not mentally well, you're probably not having a very healthy sex life either.
Right.
But the reverse can happen. I mean, I know that when I'm depressed, I just love a good blowjob.
Right.
That would be all it would take to cheer me up and get me out of bed.
Yeah.
I'd be like, you know, obviously from someone I care about, or I don't really know. It depends on how I'm feeling.
Right, but it's the same thing. I mean, you have sex, you orgasm, that releases a cocktail of, you know, endorphins and chemicals into your brain. So it's probably the same thing as, you know.
Well, it might be temporary.
It's temporary, yeah.
But I find there's a lot of guys that after they orgasm, they want to just, you know, either eat a sandwich or roll over and go to bed. So it gives me a spurt of energy. I'm a fucking weirdo, man. So, like, I want to get up out of bed. It used to drive some of my ex-girlfriends nuts because I'd, like, get up after sex and go to the computer and start working, right? Okay. My afterglow I'd utilize in other ways.
Yeah.
But,
and then run around the house.
But, you know, obviously it's very important to lay with your partner and experience the afterglow together. I know that now, and just to kind of indulge in that euphoria. But I mean, everybody's different. Like you and I were talking about some of the techniques that I'm doing now with
You're trying to get at that multiple orgasm stage,
man. Multiple orgasm. So for people listening,
so for all the women, you're not gonna be able to hold that over.
yeah, for sure.
Oh, I can multiple orgasm. Yeah, I can too.
Yeah, exactly. So for the gentlemen listening, you can actually train your body to have multiple orgasms. This is something that I'm training to do right now. I haven't pulled it off.
Like a marathon?
Haven't pulled it off yet. But so the thing is that there's two separate things. There's your orgasm and there's ejaculation.
Okay.
So there's also a point called ejaculatory inevitability. So there's when you're approaching a point of no return, you're going to come, right?
Right.
So what you have to do is practice getting to that point because you can feel it. You can feel the wave come over your body.
Right.
And then you have to be able to stop it. So you just kind of sit tight and let that pass. And it's basically that wave that's coming up, you can kind of mimic the orgasm that you would have had. So you can tighten your ass. You can sort of do the convulsions. Eventually you'll trick your body into having an orgasm without the ejaculation because the ejaculation is, you're done. So you can stay hard and continue going and have these orgasms after orgasm. And the nice thing is the arousal builds. Whereas as soon as you spunk, you're gone. You're done.
Over.
Yeah, game over for at least a good 15 minutes. Usually closer to half an hour before you can rejuvenate. But
So I mean, you're
just a little side note for people out there. Men can have multiple orgasms.
Which I actually didn't know. That.
You didn't know that?
No. Well, because I knew women could.
People think it's a myth, right? Yeah. But it takes a lot.
I know women can do it.
Women can. Yeah. Women can for sure.
Yeah. I've heard it has a lot to do with clitoris size. Too.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's news to me. I didn't know.
Anyways, so you know a ton of stuff about stuff like that. And so you were also touching on you've been going to colleges and universities around where Ontario, Canada? Or?
Ontario, mostly Ontario, London, England.
Yeah, you went to the UK.
Well, not just London. It was just all over England and Wales. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. It's a different world over there, but same problems, right? I mean, it's I saw some really nice signage up in those universities. I mean, people are getting better with the signs, but you need to be always reminding people what consent is.
Right.
So in the signs, they would say consent is only a very enthusiastic yes under sober conditions.
Right.
And the other important...
That's a great definition.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you have to be over the top enthusiastic. Being silent, like the absence of no is not consent.
Yeah.
And the point is that at any given time, a woman can change her mind, a man can change her mind. Anyone in that situation can change their mind and say that they don't want to anymore, and that's allowed. Like, it's not like just because you got permission once, that can't be withdrawn. That has to continually be there. You have to be able to take away consent at any given time to continue to have consent.
Right. So how many, like, while you've been going across universities and colleges delivering this message of consent, have you been surprised by how many people, know or don't know a proper definition of consent? Like, are there tons of students, young people out there who just don't know?
Well, it's tough. I mean, it's kind of, you got to remember that I'm bringing them up on stage in front of hundreds of people, right? So, and they don't know what questions are being asked. So when I ask them what their definition of consent is, I kind of put them on the spot.
Right.
So a lot of them just saying yes. And I say, okay, and then I have to elaborate a little more, and they kind of...
Push them.
Push them a little bit. But they tend to get it. I don't think anyone, they know that you have to say yes, and I think everyone knows sort of the general definition. I don't think they know the specifics. And I think that's something that really needs to be worked on, because it's very important. And I think they need to understand that, because I know when I was younger, I didn't, I just kind of, you'd start kissing and see how far you got. I wasn't one that communicated well during those times. I wasn't a communicator. Now, I'm very much a communicator. Is this okay? Do you like this? Show me how you like it. For example, if you're kissing a person for the first time, the best way to sort of understand how they want to be kissed is to ask them, say, show me how you want to be kissed, and then let them kiss you the way they want to be kissed. So by doing things like that, you're actually getting consent in a way as well.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean...
So, I have a question, actually.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know the answer to this, or if there is one. I don't know. But I remember at Western one time, this was, 2008, 2009. Some guy they brought in for a consent talk. I think it was at Alumni Hall. And he was talking about consent and asking for permission if you're a guy, right? Yeah. So his whole spiel was, you should be asking for consent even before you go to kiss someone. So let's say you're on a first date or you're at a club or something. His whole thing was you should stop and you should say, "Oh, can I kiss you?"
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
And I understand what he's getting at.
Yeah.
You should ask for consent. But at the same time, I feel like there's got to be like a bit of, reading going on there.
Sure.
I mean, because just asking, it flat out kills the mood. I don't care how many people stand up and are like, "Oh,
you're wrong, though. You're wrong."
But it totally does.
You're wrong. Listen,
okay,
I understand that at times you might want to lean in. I mean, even when you're leaning in, as long as you're not, fucking grabbing her face. If you give a little moment for her to come,
like that body language.
Yeah, she'll lean in or he'll lean in, whatever. I mean,
yeah. So that's my whole point. I thought that was kind of a strange message, because like what he was saying is like you shouldn't do it. Like you should just flat out turn around and be like, "Hey, can I kiss you?" And for me, seems not only clumsy and socially awkward, but it seems like it takes away a very important social skill, which is understanding when it's okay to try to kiss someone.
So reading body language in a sense?
Reading body language in a sense, right? Like you go in, and if you're close to the girl's face or the guy's face, and he turns away or she turns away or doesn't do anything or seems to get nervous, then you might want to pull back and be like, okay, so how do you feel about this?
Sure.
Right? Instead of just, turning around point blank, hey, can I kiss you? Because that seems very robotic.
Well, there's other ways to do it. It doesn't have to be robotic. You can ask for permission and communicate in a sexy way that actually makes her feel more comfortable.
That's true.
And we're using her because I know that Vince is a heterosexual male, but I'm talking, it's interchangeable. We're gender neutral as always.
That's very true, I suppose. Like you could like I feel like consent. It's always phrased in a way where it's like it seems
it doesn't have to be textbook.
Right. Because I feel like we always get a textbook definition of consent. Like as a guy, I'm supposed to say, "Do you want to have sex with me?"
No.
Right. And it doesn't. At least my understanding of things is that it doesn't always have to work in that format, right? You can communicate your desire, right, to kiss someone or to have sex with them enthusiastically, using all the slang you want, right? And then you take that and you read what you get from it, right? If the girl's like, "Yeah, absolutely, let's do that," right? And
that's kind of what you need.
Then you're like, "Hey, I got the gold ticket. Let's go for it," right?
Sure.
If it's like, "Oh, I don't know, I'm kind of tired tonight," then hey, maybe you want to like.
Maybe you want to err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's not like you want the other person to be comfortable. You want to create that bond. I mean, I don't understand these guys out there that can actually think that it's kind of like. Listen, different, before I get into that, different if you're in a relationship and you want to play some scenarios where you're getting into simulated rape play and stuff.
Right.
That is a thing, and it's very consensual, even though it's not, right? But these guys that kind of think it's hot to just like to not ask permission and to kind of force. I mean, that's a traumatic experience for someone. So.
Well, and it's very weird too, because I've always thought of sex as like a trust-based type of thing, right?
Yeah.
You know, there's communication going on, there's trust, and if all of a sudden you just like completely just ignore the other side and take what you want, there's no trust there, right? And it's just, it seems counterintuitive.
Well, I understand it's a different time, and I understand people are just hooking up for the sake of hooking up and getting laid for the sake of getting laid. But let me tell you this. It's a lot better when you actually have a connection, and when, I mean, there's guys out there that are putting notches in their belt, right? Where, you know, sleeping with as many women or men or whatever as possible, and at the end of the day, you're doing nothing but repeating the same pattern with a different person. Why not try to, you know, reconnect with the same person and over again try to explore their body in a different way? Now that's something that's an adventure.
Right.
I mean, I understand that everybody has their preferences. Everybody, you know, maybe people are closed off to the emotional stuff. Maybe that's why they do it. But that goes just back to the mental health stuff at the end. You know, that's, you want to know how they tie in. I mean, there's lots of different ways. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of, we've kind of gone into more sex coaching than I anticipated. But it happens.
It comes up because it seems like they're all so tied together, right?
Sure. Which is weird because, I mean, people, when I chose the title Sex and Suicide for this, I didn't realize how easy it will be to relate to both.
Yeah.
You know, you go, they seem like they're from totally different worlds, but at the end of the day, we can pull them together in many different ways.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting. So I guess we covered, you know, the beginnings of things, the Bachelorette, you getting into sex coaching, dealing with anxiety. You kind of covered the middle ground, you know, talking about some cool topics related to anxiety and sex coaching. Some, you know, we talked about the multiple orgasms.
That wasn't supposed to be talked about tonight.
It's all good. This is fun stuff. But yeah, so I kind of see us. We've covered the beginning. We've covered the middle. What about the end? Like, how do you see? Like, where do you see it going forward? Like, how do you want to pursue this going forward? Like, with the whole meditation and like, are you still learning things? Are you still looking for new ways to think about things? Like, how?
Yeah, I mean, meditation is still a huge part of my life. So is the things that I know that I need to do to keep healthy are to meditate a half hour a day. I need to blast my body full of nutrients, so I do my juicing, as you've seen downstairs, my vegetable juices. And then obviously hitting the gym and doing not just weights but cardio. That's sort of what I do to take care of me. That takes about probably 3 to 4 hours out of my day every day. And then the rest of the time, it's either volunteering or studying or you know, reading's a big thing as well. But because I'm single right now, I have the time to contribute to do things like this. So I can do podcasts and I can have guests on, and we can try to continue to make a difference. To be completely honest with you, I just feel like I have my Social Security card, I have my U.S. passport. There is a woman I met down in Los Angeles, you know, over a year ago, and if it wasn't for the fact that I still felt like here I had work to do. I would probably be down there with her. Yeah. But it's a big move. It's a big step, and I still feel like instead of leaving a shit stain on London, Ontario, like I was doing, I want to just really leave on a positive note. If I do leave, who knows? I mean, my family's here. Things may change, but and I still have lots of business here I want to complete. But I really just feel like. After everything that happened with my roommate, it's just I'm not done work yet. Yeah. So
fair enough. I mean, well, it sounds like you've been doing some great things already. I mean, you're volunteering at the mental. I keep messing the name up. The mental health.
CMHA.
CMHA.
And Parkwood Hospital.
And Parkwood Hospital. And you've been doing some, you know, the sex coaching stuff. You've been trying to raise awareness about consent. And it seems like that's kind of moving maybe towards some of the university crowd in London.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing that I hope to accomplish with all of this is, as I've said before, I don't really care about how many viewers or this show taking off or any of that. What I want to do is continue to do the college and university circuit, continue to talk about consent and do the sex stuff and do shows where it promotes healthy sex-positive activities, but I also want to have every student to have a place to come where maybe if they have a question about sex, they can ask it here, or if they're struggling for mental health. I mean, I'm not a mental health professional, but I'm someone that's been through it.
Right.
You know, and I do know a thing or two about sex. I don't know everything, but I can try to help you. If I don't know the answer, I know who to go to find it. So I just want to be a resource for the youth that didn't, when I was their age, I didn't know how to get it. You know, I mean, I was an early ejaculator because of all the anxiety that I was feeling. Right, as soon as you learn to take care of your anxiety and breathe and be with your partner, I mean, a lot of guys. And this is the thing too, is that I have a lot of people that have texted me from, for example, I have someone from Brock University that texted me last night. I have someone from, where else? I think someone from Sudbury was texting me. A bunch of guys that are dealing with performance anxiety.
Right.
And it's interesting because you don't think of kids that are, I don't want to call them kids, young adults that are in their sort of early 20s as being able to have a problem with delayed ejaculation.
Right. I mean, we've been taught to think of that as something that happens when you're older. Or,
sure. You think of sort of the youthful as having pretty rapid speed ejaculations. I know that's what I did when I was that age. And to be honest with you, I discovered the one thing I did discover about being on antidepressant medication was that I could last longer. So that was one benefit and why I stayed on some of them. Yeah. So there are certain medications. I don't want to encourage that. There are more natural ways.
There's other ways to do that, folks.
But if you're absolutely, if it's a make or break with a relationship, sure, why not? Try it if it needs to, if you need to. But so I guess these gentlemen that have reached out to me have had delayed ejaculation problems from performance anxiety. So that's a surprise to me because this is something that I didn't think I thought I'd have to deal with a lot of early ejaculation. And the reason I'm not saying premature ejaculation is because we don't use that term anymore. It's kind of offensive. It's just, So we use early or rapid ejaculation. So anyway, and I'd like to obviously extend this into the U.S. I mean, I know we've talked before about Mr. Trump, who I myself personally think is mentally ill. That's really the only way I can get through the day, or else I get pissed off at everything he says. So, a safe way to approach everyone in this world is actually to approach them as though they have mental illness, because then you'll actually look at the person as though,
And to be clear, not in a, that may sound like not how we're trying to say it. I mean, like, we're not trying to say like, oh, you think of everyone that has a mental illness, so like, oh, you're looking down on people.
No, not at all.
In the way that, like, oh, there's another person that has something similar to what I'm experiencing.
Sure, but you don't want to be like, oh, what the fuck's wrong with that guy, right? I mean, he could have been someone that was, he could have just been someone that was, I mean, there's so much mental illness and not enough care facilities that, and people really need to be cautious of this when they're out at the bars too, because there could be a guy that comes up and says something to you or your girlfriend. He could just be someone that's dealing with some mental illness.
Compounded with alcohol.
And you're probably not thinking straight, and you could end up getting into a fight and really hurting him, or going to jail. It could ruin your life and his, or hers, or whatever. So, so there's lots of things to think about.
Do you have any tips you could share with us? Like, are there any little useful bits of knowledge that you could throw at us, either mental health, sex related? I don't know. I'm just
tips.
Off the top of your head, interesting things that you've found.
Yeah, I mean, I think that. I'm still trying to figure it all out myself, right? I mean, I've just come a long way from where I was.
For sure.
But I think that breathing exercises really help. So
I hear that one a lot. The breathing exercises.
The one thing that breathing does, I mean, breath is both subjective and objective as well, right?
So explain this, because I'm interested in this.
Okay, so I mean, from an objective standpoint, it's something like it's a fact. You're breathing, right?
You have to breathe to live.
But you have to breathe to live. But from a subjective point of view, I'm feeling the breath go in and out too. So it's the one thing that you can think about as being both.
I see. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so it's a fact. I'm breathing. I'm here. I'm breathing. but I can also feel it. It's like I can change my breath. It is unique to me.
Right.
So
no, I guess the reason that interested me was because I do a lot of, well, I don't do a lot of it, but I sometimes to try to get to sleep, I'll listen to meditation tracks, right?
Sure.
So they're usually guided, just because I don't want to actually sit there and concentrate while I'm trying to go to bed.
No, and a lot of people do that, and that's fine. I mean, it's better than falling asleep with the TV on. Yeah. Which is what I do still some nights.
Oh,
I mean,
sometimes I do too.
Not every day is perfect, and some days you're going to be in a different mood. But
right. I guess I just that caught my ear just because I always feel like during these meditation, a lot of them they're guided and they have breathing exercises in them, and a lot of the times I feel like the breathing component is sort of forced. Sure. In a way that makes you feel like you have to read it at certain times. When I heard subjective, I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, the thing is with guided meditation, you're taught to sort of breathe in for 2 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, or whatever the guide says. Mm-hmm. But when you're dealing with actual just seating meditation, I mean, you go at your own pace, and eventually you find yourself slowing down. And when you first start, you might be a little bit more have more of a rapid sort of breathing rhythm, but. At the end of it, I always find I'm sort of calm and, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's times with meditation where it teaches you to sit with everything so that you can respond instead of react. So, I mean, if I'm angry, I could have a really angry meditation session where I'm just trying to be present, but there's something within me that's just really angry, but I sat with it. So when someone in the real world makes me angry, instead of reacting like I used to by punching people in the face,
right?
I can now respond and say, okay, well, this person's obviously angry. What can I do to make this situation better without physically harming anyone?
Right.
So,
cool.
Yeah, I used to be a really big reactor, and that was a problem for me. It got me into a lot of trouble. I used to get into a lot of fights.
Oh, no.
Yeah, oh, no.
Oh, no.
You've seen me get mad. It's not pretty.
No, but you're a big boy, too. I'm sure you could hold your own.
Oh, there was times when I was younger when I just get the shit kicked out of me.
Oh, really?
But, yeah. But I always deserved for the most part, so...
I guess one of the things that maybe I forgot to cover, I don't know if you still want to talk about it, but maybe some of the relationships that you've had that have had impacts.
Ooh, the big question, relationships.
Yeah, I know. Because I know you've had some doozies.
Yeah.
You've had some great ones, and you've had some kind of, out there ones.
I think that every relationship I've been in has been great at moments.
Right.
I think with every woman that I've been with, there's been nights that, I said I'll never forget, but like right now I'm having a tough time remembering. No, but there's definitely nights that like I still remember with my previous girlfriend. I've still probably had some of the best nights of my life with her. Yeah. But there was also, I mean, the previous relationship I'm not going to touch on too much, but when I started, in high school, I mean I've only been in 1, 2, 3. Maybe 5 or 6 serious relationships. Okay,
but that's still a fair bit. Like,
sure,
I mean, that's nothing to laugh at. That's still 5 or 6 relationships, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And I found that I can go from high school. My high school sweetheart, she was probably she was a sweetheart. There's nothing else to be said.
This is the one that you wish you stayed with.
Oh, is that what you think?
Is it? No.
No, I don't think. I think that they're all sort of happier without me. But I mean, she was a great woman, a great catch. I think that at that time we were just really young, and I was obviously insecure at that point.
But she's a guy too.
Yeah, and then the relationship after that. I mean, she's actually the one that gave me Lizzie over there. Lizzie's still with me.
Oh,
Lizzie's
really?
Wow. For those people watching, I have a lizard that was given to me by my high school sweetheart, and she's still with us. She's got to be like 17 years old now, so she's my longest lasting relationship.
Wow.
The next serious relationship, I actually lived with her.
Oh, okay.
And that living with a woman when you're sort of 20, I think I was 21 or 22.
So this is the second or third one?
Second one. Okay. Yeah, second one. I don't want to mention names.
No worries.
Yeah, she was, her and I had some really good times, but she was a bartender. I was a DJ, so I mean, we were both drinking and experimenting with drugs, so that's never a good mix. No, I mean, either she was drunk and high or I was drunk and high, and at the end of it all, I ended up leaving London at that point and going up to Sault Ste. Marie to start fresh, just to kind of get away from everything.
Yes.
And then I was in a relationship up there for a while, And then
at the time, this is when you're doing your flight training.
Flight training and everything.
Yeah.
She was wild. She was a wild one. She's a firecracker up there. And then her and I broke up, and I started dating a woman that probably had the biggest impact on my life.
Okay.
And this woman was kind of a rebound from the relationship I was in previously.
Okay.
And her and I started dating, and she kind of, I don't really know how to get into this story, but
okay.
somehow I ended up with emails from her mom and her uncle. Like, I ended up with her mom and her uncle's email account. Right. And she sort of went home for Thanksgiving. She was from Toronto. We were up in Sault Ste. Marie kind of thing. And I remember at one point in time getting an email from her mom saying that her daughter had been diagnosed with leukemia.
Right.
And so...
And this is her mom emailing you.
What I thought to be at the time.
So at the time, you hadn't heard from your girlfriend at the time that this was happening. This was the first you'd heard of it.
This was the first I've heard of it. She kind of told me that something might be wrong, and then I understood when I started getting emails from her mom and her dad and her uncle. There was 3 people that were emailing me, so she kind of said in the email, "We're going to tell our daughter that she has leukemia tonight, just so you know." And so their daughter was in my sort of dorm room, the one I was dating, and all of a sudden she picked up her phone. I didn't even hear her phone ring, so I assumed she must have it on vibrate. And she just broke down crying into tears, and she had just found out she had leukemia, and she had like 6 months to live.
Right.
So
this must have been a huge stress on you. Let's keep in mind that she thinks she has leukemia. And obviously that's huge, but I mean, just to have someone that you love that goes through that's a huge thing too, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously the thing was, her and I didn't see it working out. Like I said, she was kind of a rebound, and I think she sensed that, just to kind of give a little bit of insight into the story. So anyway, it went on, and eventually it came to the point where she was leaving Sault Ste. Marie and needed to go to Toronto to get treatment. And so I decided that, hey, I'll go with you and help you fight this thing. So I left Sault Ste. Marie, I left Sault College, and I went to fight leukemia with her, right?
Yeah.
But
so you have to cancel. You basically left your flight school, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was an RA at the college. I moved all my stuff into storage, and I thought, maybe I'll come back and finish when this passes. So anyway, I ended up leaving with her. She went back to Toronto for a little while. It was over Christmas break. She came and stayed with me and my family for a little bit, and my grandma even gave her a warm blanket to help her through her chemo. And when she'd come to visit, she'd have all the Band-Aids on where she'd gotten the blood work done, and she showed me, where she got her lumbar puncture, and she seemed to know all the oncologists at the Toronto University.
Right.
So, she had my whole family obviously supported her and believed it, and eventually it got a little bit weird because she didn't feel she needed to go back to Toronto to get treatment. She just kind of kept staying with me and my parents' house. Keep in mind, I lived in Sault Ste. Marie, so we were all staying in one house. So anyway, what ended up happening was we finally went to Toronto where I was supposed to meet her family, and the idea was, I'm making a huge, long story kind of condensed here, but we went to a hotel because her family was apparently just coming back from somewhere, and so they put us up in a hotel. I got a phone call from at that hotel room saying, and it was from her father, saying that everything she had told me and my family was a lie.
Ooh,
and that she...
There's
so it's kind of like Gone Girl in a way. I feel like that's kind of in my life.
Yeah.
So that was a relationship that really fucked me up because I said, I don't know who you are. You completely lied to me with this disease. You helped me pack up my things and move. So I got on a bus. I hopped back to London from Toronto, and I ended up... That's how I got my real estate license, because I couldn't get back into school, so I had to do something while I was home until the fall.
Right.
And that really, I think that really fucked me up a lot more. I had than I realized, because I had a lot of trouble trusting people from that point forward.
Right. Well, it's interesting because a lot of the times you don't realize how those things affect you until time passes.
Yeah, I know, and and I think that I carried it with me into my other relationships. And you know what? But there was times when I was justified in having those walls up and not trusting. But I went back to Sault Ste. Marie the following year to try to finish my aviation program, and I was just a mess. I mean, I thought everyone was out to get me. I was, I just...
But I mean, it's not like that's not an understandable reaction, right?
Fair enough, but...
I mean, even if it was, not how you should have been acting.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit out there, still, I mean, you had someone you loved, your girlfriend, tell you that they were dying.
I loved her in a way. I don't think I was in love with her, but
right. But at the
still,
same time,
you don't want to. I mean, even when that happened, even I remember feeling a relief, because I knew that she, even when they told me, as pissed off as I was, I was relieved that at least she was going to get to live her life.
Right.
So, after that was, I was 25, so that was like 8 years ago, and then I've really only had one relationship since then, and that one was off and on for 4 years, and she's still probably the girl I loved most, but what can I say, it didn't work. And then from then on, after Bachelorette, it was just like there were women that would come and go, but same thing, it's like, who's in this, who's talking to me because they actually want to talk to me, or who just wants to take a picture on Snapchat, like, you don't know. And I think a lot of people from the show deal with that, so so since then, I took a year away. I took a year away from all of it. I took a year away from alcohol. I took a year away from women. I stayed single. I didn't have sex for a year. I know that seems like a long time to a lot of people, but it was needed, And I had people that I talked to. I mean, I had my lady friend down in Los Angeles that I enjoyed talking to, and she was probably the last woman that I slept with up until recently. Not too far back anyway, but So I mean, I guess if you had to contrast this past year with last year, I mean, I guess you've come pretty far away, right? Like, I mean, it's so different. It seems like black and white, right? I mean, it seems like you made a huge change. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it was necessarily like the best thing to do. I mean, I had to cut certain people out of my life, and not that. I mean, I know it was kind of without question, but the people that I cut out of my life were people that were either cheating on their wives or still involved in the drugs, and it's just I needed a more supportive circle at that time. Well, it's a hard thing to do, right? I mean, because a lot of times those behaviors and activities that you engaged in, they're with your friends. Right? Yeah. So a lot of times, if you want to stop those behaviors and start doing different things, you actually have to cut those people out of your life. As negative as that might sound, and as painful as it might be, sometimes that's what it takes. At least temporarily. And I mean, I do want to be clear, like, I love to use this to reconnect with a lot of my friends and see what they've been up to. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. And I want to be clear, you don't have to get as in-depth as I've done about my past and my history tonight. I just wanted to sort of set the tone by being as open and transparent as I could, because I think that living transparent in a world like today is something that we need more of. And so I invite anyone who wants to come on this show. If I ask you a question and it's out of line, by all means, don't answer it. Just tell me to fuck off, But But I think that's how it should be, right? I mean, let's not tiptoe around the questions. Let's ask the questions we want to ask, and if you want to answer them, you can answer. Or you don't. Yeah. Then don't. It's okay not to. I agree, but they won't be. It's not like I'm here to fucking. Oh yeah. To put you on the. This isn't getting the hot seat. Spanish Inquisition. Yeah. It's more or less a place where we can reconnect, and you can tell me about how you've been and what's been, all the challenges that you overcome. And sure. Yeah. So I think that's a good spot to probably end off for tonight. Do you? All right. Yeah. No. Unless there's anything else you want to. No, I was. Yeah. Unless there's anything you want to say. I mean, we've got our social media set up, so if you want to. Yeah. So we have Facebook Live going in BidChat right now. We're going to have the professional video done up, so make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we're only going to be doing the live streaming stuff, except for BidChat. We'll always do BidChat. Yeah, but, love you, BidChat. Yeah, love you, BidChat. is in terms of Facebook Live, we're only going to be doing it for a month or so, and then you have to go. We'll be posting the videos from YouTube. So please subscribe to that, like our Facebook page, especially because Wednesday I've got a very special guest. I'll be going up to Sioux College where all this craziness actually happened. And I'm bringing Spenny from Kenny vs. Spenny, and we're going to be live streaming our sex toy bingo show.
Yeah.
So
yeah, great guy. Sounds like a fun show.
Yeah.
I haven't actually seen it yet, so I'm excited to watch the live stream.
That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, some shenanigans.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. So make sure that you like our Facebook page, like us on Instagram, and subscribe to YouTube.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Yeah,
that's the big one, right?
That's the big one. That's where
eventually,
we want to drive our...
eventually all this live streaming shit is going to be gone, and we're only going to focus on YouTube. So try to enjoy what you can while you can get the live feed, but eventually we're going to have all the professional stuff ready to go on YouTube for you. So
yeah,
I think that's everything.
All right.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in to the Sex and Suicide podcast. I was, I guess, your co-host tonight. So Vinny Chase was your host, and I guess I was co-host and guest tonight.
Yeah.
2 roles. So we will see you guys Wednesday for Sex Toy Bingo, and don't forget Sunday. Randy will be feeling better, so we're going to be launching the Sunday Night Sex Show. That one will be a lot of fun. Not quite as deep and heavy. So see you there.